right, so hello everyone, my name's Justin Flitter. I'm the chair of the New Zealand Tech Marketers Group, and today we have with us three wonderful people who joined our Emerging Leaders program over the last year or so. Hannah Howard, hi and welcome. How are you?
Hi, Justin. Doing good, thanks.
And Laura-Mae.
Hello, Justin. How are you?
I'm good. And Penny.
Justin.
It's nice to see you all again. So Tech Marketers Group was started 6 or 7 years ago and has grown to a wonderful community of marketers working for software, technology, professional services and kind of tech marketing roles. So working in automation or web or email, and data, all sorts of different roles. So it's really exciting for me and for all of us to reconnect and have you on this podcast webinar interview today. So first of all, we're going to explore some of the things that you do, that you've noticed, your insights as young marketers, as the marketing world, especially in B2B tech, is changing very quickly. So first of all, I'm going to get you to introduce yourselves and tell us about your current role. And I'm going to start with you, Hannah.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks so much for having me here today. So yeah, I'm Hannah Howard. I'm based in Christchurch, New Zealand, working remote as the customer marketing manager at LawVu. LawVu is a SaaS company based in Tauranga, and our product is a legal workspace for in-house legal teams. So I sit within the growth and brand marketing team at LawVu, and the core of my role is storytelling through the lens of our wonderful customers. So I partner with our customers to showcase their stories as in-house legal teams going through digital transformation using LawVu. And the main ways I do this is through writing case studies, creating video testimonials, as well as producing our webinars and speaking at sessions and events. And with LawVu being a growth company, I wear hats outside of this, of course, including account-based marketing efforts and then field marketing through event sponsorships. And outside of work, I'm a big fan of the outdoors, especially mountain biking and skiing, and not too recently returned from living in Seattle, Washington for 7 years.
Wow, well, being based down in Christchurch, you've got all the mountains all around you, so that's it's a wonderful spot to be, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah, it's the dream right now.
And so LawVu's done an awful lot of work to create the category that you're in, which didn't really exist before, and a lot of that's been involved with some of the community building, and I especially of note would be the InView magazine and that community that Sian Simpson's been helping you to do, who spoke at our conference earlier in the year. How does that kind of ecosystem of content and stories, that's obviously a big part of kind of your role, feeding and resourcing into that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We're extremely lucky at LawVu to, within the marketing umbrella, we have the community team led by Sian Simpson, and then we have our team, growth and brand marketing, and then led by Bindi Griffin, and then also we have our product marketing team led by Ashley Bass. And so yeah, extremely lucky to have that resource in the community. I think my role in particular, I love because it works across those three teams quite a lot. And those three teams exist very much to build content through the marketing funnel. And so Sian's very much, creating and has created such an awesome community. And most recently has had or launched the InView, our first InView community conference. And, the feedback we got from that, from customers that are in the community and also just the wider community itself, is that it's a really genuine place that people are going to share knowledge, but in turn that also gives me the ability to pull from that community and start to educate about the technology solutions that can help the challenges that in-house legal teams are facing. And so yeah, it's very much an important strategy for our team, and one that's been invested in right from the top of LawVu, and we feel really passionate about.
Yeah, look, it's I think a lot of organizations around New Zealand are looking to LawVu as a case study of best practice around that, so it's really exciting. Penny, welcome. Can you tell us a little about you and your role?
Hi, yeah. Thank you so much for having me today. So I am also based down in Christchurch, and I'm the marketing manager for Izon Science. So we are a nanotechnology company, and we create and sell isolation and characterization tools for mostly researchers working with nanobiological particles. So the idea is that we create products that mean that you worry about your big research questions, and isolation and characterization is taken care of by us. So that's what we do. Our marketing team is quite small. So it's myself, a graphic designer part-time, and then a couple of content writers. So our strategy is really focused on content marketing and being experts in our field, which is extracellular vesicles mostly. And so making sure that we're a part of that community and that we're someone that is trusted, building our brand in that regard to be like, hey, we're the people you can go to when you have research questions, when you're having issues with these things, come to us, and we want to be kind of partnering with our customers, because research is a space where these questions are difficult, they're challenging, there's a lot of regulation and things coming in. So it's making sure that people are on board and that we can support them in the best way to answer their questions.
So a professional service or?
Yeah, but moving into that as well. So one of our products is the isolation columns, and looking at building custom large columns for people in kind of either the cosmetic or therapeutic space.
And so where are your customers mostly?
They're all around the world. We're very globally focused. So we have offices here in New Zealand, one in Lyon, France, and 2 in the US now, Boston and Portland.
And how did you decide where to open those offices?
Those offices, it's mostly because here in Christchurch, the community is quite small in terms of EV research. However, globally, there's a lot of research going on in Europe and the US. So that's where our focus is.
That's really interesting. It's super technical, isn't it?
Is that really quick?
I'm not sure I understand.
Do you have a science background?
Yeah, so I did a double degree in pharmacology and marketing.
Right. Wow.
So that's why it's quite a good fit for me here at Izon.
Well, it's a perfect fit for you, isn't it? It's like, that's the job.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's really interesting. Laura-Mae, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. I am. My name's Laura-Mae. I'm based here in Christchurch as well. And I work at Concentrate, which is a B2B tech marketing agency. So we have a mixture of clients who, do commercial power supply and software, and others that do satellite imagery and all sorts, which is quite fun. You get a broad perspective of all of these different countries and not countries, companies. And although we have worked with a couple of international companies, which is pretty awesome. Recently one that was in the US, which was fantastic. But yeah, my role, I do a bunch of things from, the ads and emails and newsletters and all of that, to helping out with website builds for some of our clients, which is great. And recently we started the Growing Tech podcast for Concentrate, which is very fun. And we had a fella called Dan Tyre from HubSpot who we interviewed. And so, yeah, I organized all of that. But yeah, the main software that we use is HubSpot, because it's just got, it's so amazing. You've got Service Hub and Marketing Hub and all of these sorts of different things, and it's really, really helpful to have everything or most things that you need in one software. So that's what we use at Concentrate. So yeah, that's what I do.
What's in the water in Christchurch that's creating this ecosystem of amazing tech companies and marketers?
It's the place to be.
Yeah, it was funny when I recently moved back, and I was like, I felt I'd been away for 7 years, and I sort of felt like I didn't know anyone locally. And then just slowly turning over the soil, there's so many people popping up, and I think just the ability to work remote, that from any location, is super appealing. Maybe that is for me anyway. I
mean, for the New Zealand Tech Marketers Group, Christchurch is, one of our, if not our most active community. And I think, Helen and Brittany do a great job coordinating down there. But it's really exciting for our community, and I think for New Zealand, that Christchurch is becoming such a great hub of talent and capability, and lots of really exciting companies coming out of down that way. So it's really cool. So how did you get your first job, Penny? Your first marketing job, perhaps not the first job, perhaps your first marketing job. Well, is Izon your first marketing job?
No, it's not. So I started my marketing career up in Auckland at Fisher & Paykel Healthcare with Nick Harrop, who is part of the Tech Marketers Group.
He's one of the founders, yes?
Yes. So yeah, I met her actually when I was at university. So I studied down in Otago, and her and a few other people came and visited, and I met them there. But the funny story is that I applied 3 times before I got a job there. But I ended up working in Nick's team, which was really cool, and it ended up being the right role in the end, which was great, and a really awesome experience. But I suppose it just shows the power of networking and making connections
and persistence.
That too.
What attracted you to Fisher & Paykel other than you had met Nick before?
I think it really showed me that, because I was doing that double degree with the marketing and science, and at the time I didn't really know what kind of roles in New Zealand that would be available for me with that kind of skill set, and whether I'd be able to utilize both sides of my degrees. So it was really cool to see a big company in New Zealand that has got like a clinical and scientific focus, but I could be in marketing in that. So that was the appeal of Fisher & Paykel Healthcare.
Hannah, what about you? What was your first marketing job?
Yeah, so I actually trained as a lawyer in New Zealand and did my internships and then worked as a graduate in the profession for 18 months. But actually through all of this, I'd always been really curious about business and innovation. And then the opportunity came up to move to Seattle. And so I really jumped at this chance. And obviously this came with the hard decision to put legal on pause. But soon I found myself working in a customer success role for Outreach, which is a sales SaaS software based in Seattle, and just kind of immediately was drawn to the energy of the startup world, and really continued to spark the passion that I have for business. And so with the company being at such an early stage, like very, very early stage when I was there, again, I was wearing multiple hats and I ended up working a lot on product marketing. I think it might have had something to do with my Kiwi accent being in America. So I was like on all of our go-to-market communications to our customers, and I ended up just really loving the process of marketing, and found like a lot of my skill sets from law actually applied to that. And then, I haven't looked back, and probably similar to Penny, like I've ended up working for LawVu, which is just a perfect fit for me, having had that initial legal experience, but now working in marketing, which I'm a lot more passionate about, and just coming at it from a different angle.
It's really interesting how you've both kind of studied in a different field, or Penny, you did a bit of marketing, you did marketing as well, but you found roles that cross over both those skill sets and passions, right? Laura-Mae, what about you?
My first marketing job was an interesting one. I was fresh out of uni, and I was just desperate to find a job, to be honest. And I was like, oh no, it was really funny. I had printed off CVs for marketing in one hand and then CVs for hospitality in the other, because I was like, I need a job. But there was this one place that I handed my CV into, and it was a beauty salon, and it wasn't really much marketing, but I thought it would be. I stayed there for 3 months, and then a agency that was in the exact same building as that beauty salon said, hey, look, I've read through your CV and we need someone now. And I was like, great, this is agency work, I'm hopping right in. So I joined that marketing agency. This is in Wellington, and I stayed there for a wee while and got some really valuable experience in marketing, Facebook and Google ads and all of that, and managing your time and whatnot. So that was kind of my first marketing job. But yeah, then COVID hit and it was a bit of a pause for me. And so I started to do contract work. So when I was based at home in Golden Bay, I did contract work for local authors and cafes and restaurants and all that sort of stuff. And it really gave me good insight into, you know, the basis of how a business kind of runs, because, you know, technically you are one. And yeah, it was great. And then I moved down to Christchurch and have loved working at Concentrate since. So yeah.
I think one of the great things about working agency side is that you are working across lots of different companies and lots of different problems and challenges. So while the tools and the tactics that you use, you know, the channels to market might be similar, your approaches are all quite different, and so it gets you to kind of think about things in different ways. I guess there's always that debate around, you know, client side, agency side, and which one kind of works well. But I've spent a bit of time working inside agencies as well, and you learn a lot very quickly.
It's very fast paced.
It is, yeah, it is fast paced and a lot of pressure. And in terms of, you know, that knowledge, the knowledge that you build working across lots of different companies, so that certainly accelerates your capability pretty quickly, I think.
Yeah, the first agency that I was at was very like B2C, whereas Concentrate is very B2B. So I've even had that kind of a broad spectrum of understanding now. So yeah, multiple hats on.
What do you think that, what's the key difference between that B2C agency work and B2B? What's the...
I think B2C is definitely more freedom to be creative and trial new things. And it appears more exciting, but of course it's also very focused on a larger audience too. Whereas B2B, it's so niche. And sometimes that's hard to do when you're creating ads and whatnot. It's so hard to find that niche, and kind of, because New Zealand's small as well, but then again, that's also valuable and helpful, because, you know, you've got it helps the sales team do their job better because you've got that niche and you can target towards them easily and all of that. It's pros and cons.
I think one of the things that has struck me, certainly in my work this year, is that especially with B2B enterprise, you know, you don't have to be focused on the numbers, or the way that you think about the numbers in your marketing world completely shift, because the number of customers that you need to move the dial isn't, and it might be different in the LawVu world, or certainly when I was at Zendesk, it was very different then, right? Because we'd be getting, you know, hundreds and thousands of new signups a day. And that's kind of, you know, fast-paced SaaS environment. But for enterprise SaaS, you know, if you're getting one deal a month, you might be growing 20%, you know. And so the way that you think about how many people are visiting my website, you know, what's our open rate, what's the click-through rate, some of these vanity metrics, you know, you're not looking necessarily, I mean, it would be great if you're getting a 20 or 30%, you know, click-through rate, but actually you need to find of your, you know, if you've got a 1,000-person target account list, or, you know, you're building an ABM model, if you can find half a dozen in there that are engaged and active and you can carry through, then that's what you need. And you've got to find, because you know, the timing and the sales cycle can be so long. The other 994, you know, they'll become interested at some point, but those 6 are the ones that you've got to really focus on right now. And it's that job of kind of finding the people in those organizations to put up their hand to go, yes, it's me, come talk to me. So the way you think about numbers, is that, do you guys find that as well? Is that kind of the way that you think about those numbers, or are you kind of always looking at, you know, trying to increase things? How do you approach the numbers and the business? Penny?
Yeah, we have 2 really different sides of our business. So the isolation side versus the characterization side. Isolation is kind of quite consumable. It's quite fast moving. There's not so much friction with that purchase. So we find that kind of someone might inquire and buy within the month and it's not an issue. Whereas the characterization side of the business, it's a $45,000 US device, which obviously if it's a university buying it, that kind of thing, there's a lot of hoops that our customers have to jump through. So it's making sure that we're like helping them through that. And you're like exactly what you're saying, you know, if there's 5 or 6 people moving through that funnel at a time, that's awesome. But if there might be a few thousand that we're kind of maybe in our email nurturing campaigns and things that are kind of in the background, like making sure they don't forget about us, but the focus is on those few that are at that purchasing decision and how can we support them.
Yeah. And what does that look like for you, Hannah?
It's been quite, well, I think everything's exciting in marketing, but I don't know if exciting is the right word here, but it's been a cool change or shift in mentality I've seen in our team. And yeah, Bindy's been a huge advocate for this. We used to measure ourselves largely off how many MQLs we were creating every month, which is just not really sustainable, because eventually you've saturated the market in terms of your digital strategy, and we just weren't going to be able to continue to increase MQLs every month. So we made a big shift to actually measuring how much influence we have on opportunities. And that's been a really exciting shift, I think, because you are nurturing them a lot further down from our team's perspective, down the funnel, with the content we're creating and able to retarget. And then, yeah, just recently, in terms of ABM, we've got different strategies depending on the different sized legal teams. So we can support any sized legal teams, but we split them in terms of size in regards to marketing to them. And my particular role has been really focused on the large enterprise ones. And yes, selecting literally 10 on the West Coast of America, 10 companies, and doing a really high touch account-based marketing approach to specific personas within the team. And we're really new to that. Literally, we're in month 2 of a pilot program, which is a long burn. It's going to be a long burn for us. We're measuring it over 12 months, but we're already seeing some really exciting traction. And I think it just shows that those like high touch approaches still really do work. And ultimately we're selling B2B, but we're selling to humans. And that really keeps me inspired, you know, in the messaging that we're creating and you know, learning a lot along the way. Like you said, Penny, depending on the different industries, sometimes there's a lot of hoops to go through. And so it's exciting. It's exciting to be able to segment and really change your strategy based on that.
I like what you said around, you know, it's B2B, but we're still selling to humans, right? and that emotional, empathetic approach is still really important. I mean, it comes across so much in B2C marketing, when, you know, we're really talking, we're trying to get that emotional connection there. Often in B2B, we can lean on, you know, features and benefits very quickly and easily, and we lose that emotional connection to how is this actually going to help you in your role be better, grow, be seen as more valuable, all of that type of stuff, right? How have you woven in those narratives to make sure that you're connecting with people at that emotional level, Hannah?
I think it's been a huge part of what we're doing on category creation. So you know, we're obviously a technology product, and a big thing is on how we save time. And not only are we messaging that's really important in terms of saving time and money for the business, but it's also giving lawyers that go in-house the time back to spend on strategic work that ultimately they went in-house to do. So it's tapping into that incentive of why the lawyers go in-house. Well, it's to go in-house to be more business focused and do more strategic business work. And what we're seeing is that there is a real disconnect, and they're really bogged down by the day-to-day work. So what LawVu does is it really enables them to get that time back, and then they're achieving, you know, their own goals personally. And I think that's a message that's really resonated and really helped us to create category, but also we message quite strongly through our community arm as well.
Penny, how do you weave in the emotional personal connection stories into your marketing, do you?
Yeah, we've definitely been focused on including that more recently, and it's really focused on, the research that these people are doing. They're really passionate about it, like they've been studying this for years, if not decades. Like they're really involved in that community and they're really passionate about what they do, and they just need the tools that are going to be reliable. They need the papers to back it up, and it's making that easy and making it like, hey, this is for you. It's about you. Like, are you ready to take your isolation to the next level? Like that, those kind of messaging really focused on them, as opposed to, I think B2B marketing a lot of the time tends to focus on, look at how great our product is, and tries to sell, all the specs of it. And it's like, well, yeah, of course it's got all of that. Like that's what you expect with the product. However, like what does it actually do for me? And thinking of it from that point of view and trying to put that lens on it of, okay, if I'm the customer reading this brochure, reading this ad, reading whatever it is, like what do I get from it? And so taking that approach to our marketing, we've seen like quite positive results from taking that kind of lens and shifting some of our messaging to have that more focus on what the product does for you and what you're going to be able to do for your research.
Laura-Mae, stepping into your roles and growing into kind of leadership capacity, where do you well, actually, first of all, being a young marketer, especially growing through agencies and working with leadership teams within your various clients, how have you built trust and authority as a young marketer in those environments?
I think it's really important to just be open and honest with the clients and bring on all of your team and kind of just communicate, treat them like a friend, and obviously I've got a lot of knowledge and experience in marketing and all of that, and the clients, I mean, that my clients range from talking to the CEOs to DMSs across multiple companies. So I've got knowledge on marketing and I want to share that and help them and support their get them sales, get them leads, and so I kind of supply that kind of knowledge and create that trust through there. But also just understanding the client and what they want and what they need is really, really important, because you want to be heard as a client, and you want to know that your marketing team or an agency really understands your message and your reason behind why you have this company. I think that's really important. I think a lot of agencies sometimes, I think this is more B2C, a lot of B2C agencies will just be like, let's create some ads, let's do this, let's do that. And it's like, yeah, but you don't really understand why. And at Concentrate, we really try to get, that branding across and nurture their leads. So, yeah.
And so where do you go for your, where do you go to build your strength and confidence to grow your leadership capability?
I'm really, really lucky because we've got so many awesome people at work that are experienced in particular fields, and I can just it's so nice. I can just knock on their little table and get some support of specific areas, but also I have regular one-on-ones with the manager and have chats that way and just kind of understand a little bit more about the strategy and all of that. But also, I love listening to podcasts that are all about marketing, because they've got some great insights on there, and listening to all of the US tech companies on their podcasts. It's really valuable insights, and I think that New Zealand companies can learn a lot from those US ones.
All right, favorite podcast of the moment, what is it?
Not gonna lie, I still do listen to the HubSpot one. I'm a fan through and through.
Interest. Hannah, you're you're growing in your career and taking on a lot. Where do you go to build your leadership capability and confidence within the business, but thinking about what you want to achieve in the years ahead as well?
Yeah, very, very lucky at LawVu. We, our chief marketing officer came from LinkedIn in San Fran, and he's now living in Auckland. And so he pretty quickly after he arrived, set up a marketing summit for all of us to come together. And he brought on some great speakers. And like you said, Laura, a lot of them were from the States. And so really like pulling from things that they'd learned there. So we just have incredible knowledge shared within our team. And then being members of group like tech marketers, going to meetups, PMM Alliance is also great as well. They have a customer marketing track within that. But I think one thing that I've always just loved doing is just increasing my network. And so, you know, not only attending networking events and whatnot, but it's also looking at who your colleagues know and who they might be able to connect you with that has specific experience, especially in my role. Customer marketing is somewhat new and not always defined. So it's really good to kind of just reach out, and I'll literally reach out to a random on LinkedIn for a 30-minute chat. And I've had really good response and talk to people from all different, you know, industries and areas of the world, and just you know, been given amazing insights, and hopefully one day I'll be able to give those back if anyone needs. But yeah, I think just always, you know, trying to set myself a goal of like once a month, trying to have a chat with someone about some new ideas.
That's a really good approach. Yeah, I love it. Penny?
Yeah, I'm part of a smaller marketing team, so I feel like I have to be a little bit more like go outside of my company to find that kind of support and growth. I'm really lucky that my manager is really passionate about marketing, and that he really wants to see the company kind of take risks and be a part of. I mean, marketing is a field that's moving forward so quickly. You've got to kind of take risks and trial things and see what's working and what's not. I also listen to podcasts and things as well. I really appreciate the Tech Marketers group. It's been great to go to the Christchurch meetups and connect with other people. But one thing you guys haven't mentioned is that I also subscribe to a few marketing newsletters. A lot of them are from the US as well. And it's a great way to be like, I'm going to have 5 minutes with my cup of coffee and kind of read about marketing and keep in touch with what's happening. It's quite an easy way to keep up to date with what's happening in the marketing world.
So you've all mentioned the US. My question is, what's the biggest difference marketing into the US versus marketing to New Zealanders?
It's a tough question. I think they're just like, they've got the tech capital, you know, they've been doing it for a lot longer. I think they've got kind of a leg up a little bit. But then again, New Zealand is such a great country to trial things out, you know, and we've got so many tech just geniuses in this country, and clearly in Christchurch as well. But I think, yeah, there's so many events going on over in the States, and it's the tech capital. That's my perspective.
For us, it's also where our customers are.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Hannah, I mean, you've lived and worked in the US. Are there, you know, do you find, you know, what would your key points be if you're, you know, a company that's starting to build their brand and proposition into the US? Perhaps they've been doing it in New Zealand or Australia for a few years. There's some unique challenges about working in the US. It's culturally different. And, you know, yes, they are a lot more advanced in some areas than New Zealand and Australia. But there are a lot of, you know, differences to think about when you're approaching that market. Is there a couple of things off the top of your head that you'd recommend people think about?
Yeah, I mean, I think in some ways they are super advanced, and they have, I agree, the tech capital, and there's just so many amazing ideas, and they've kind of done everything, and we can pull from that. But really at the heart of it, they're really relationship driven people, but it's quite hard to create those relationships. So even from a personal perspective, having lived there, some of our best friendships took a few years to make. And I think that transcends into the business world as well. So I'd say and LawVu does this really well. Like our CEO, Sam, I think it was really hard during COVID and we were, stuck in New Zealand, but as soon as the borders opened, he's still over there on the ground, making those relationships with obviously his employees, but also with, some of the key customers and people thinking about LawVu. And I think, they like to build trust and they like to have those ongoing relationships. So I think that would be kind of the main piece of advice is if you're looking at expanding, just really think about trying to get, in person in the market and it's so different. Don't treat it as one country. Every coast is different. There's 4 different time zones that are all very different. Every state's different as well. So I think about it state by state and really go over there and understand before you or as you're kind of building your culture and your brand over there.
All right, what's Penny, we'll start with you. What would be your advice for a young marketer coming out of university, hunting for their first job? What would your advice be to them today?
Oh, that's a good question. Something I don't think I appreciated enough at the time, but appreciate now being in a smaller marketing team is Fisher & Paykel. I was a sponge. It was great being around other marketers. There's so much to learn. But I find myself even today thinking, I remember so-and-so did a presentation about that, channel that kind of energy into what I'm doing now and taking on kind of just absorbing everything that other marketers are doing. There's a lot to learn initially, and to ask questions and to be curious when you go into new roles, and to also build connections outside of marketing as well. Both of the companies I've worked for have been quite engineering focused, and getting to understand what they do and how they work and how their teams work, and also how the sales team works, so that you're that kind of connection between those teams.
Do you think it was beneficial to have your first marketing role in quite a large team in a large organization versus perhaps if you jumped into where you are now straight out of university?
Definitely. Yeah, I really appreciate that experience. It was like I said, just being a sponge and learning off everyone and how the different teams worked. Everyone brought a different perspective. Whereas now being in quite a small team, I kind of still pull on that experience a lot. So it's really helpful. And I don't know that I'd have, kind of that back knowledge to pull on if I'd come straight into a small team.
Laura?
I think being involved in groups like TMG and all of that, and we've got Canterbury Tech as well. So just being involved in those groups and actually just familiarizing yourself with other people's perspectives and client needs and all of that sort of stuff is really valuable. But then, as Penny said, just being curious and being that sponge in your first job is so important. The amount of notes I wrote down in my first job, oh my gosh, I could have written a book. But yeah, just absorbing that information and also just sharing that knowledge with peers that you went to university with is really important, because they'll appreciate it and they might have some feedback and input for you as well. So just communicating all of your learnings and reading the emails that the marketing emails that you get.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But also reading, subscribing. I love subscribing to other companies just to see what they're doing, right? And it's kind of like I'm looking over the fence kind of going, how do they do it, all the time? Is really interesting. Hannah, what about you? What's your advice for young marketers as they kick off their career?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with Penny and Laura more. But yeah, I think it particularly just learn as much as you can. Curiosity is going to be your best skill coming out of uni, and marketing itself is really broad. There's so many different areas within marketing. So just try and get experience across that. And then, like Penny said as well, really learn your organization, learn the different parts of your organization, sit in those teams, hear their conversations, because especially when you're working for a business, marketing impacts all of that and is impacted by all of that. And then, just keep that mindset of always learning open, because even now I'm still learning. And I think back to when I graduated and we've had a whole pandemic, and that's changed everything so much as well, like nothing I could have anticipated. So just being flexible and open to change, and so working for good people. It takes, sometimes that's not always as easy as it sounds, and you're going to have good and bad experiences, but they're ultimately going to form the sum of who you become as a partner, as a marketer, and they will all be valuable in the end. And so they'll work for good people, work for people that support you, help you to fail fast, and I think just it all goes back to just being curious and always wanting to learn.
Well, we've just launched our TMG student membership and building our partnership with AUT and other universities around New Zealand. So I'm sure all of their graduating marketers will find your insights and your stories really inspirational and useful. So thank you all so very, very much, Hannah, Laura-Mae, and Penny, for joining us today. It's been great to catch up with you all, and I can't wait to come down and Christchurch and come to one of these events. I think we might need a chairperson this trip down for one of the ones at some stage this year. Thank you all for listening in, and thank you to the three of you for sharing your time with us today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Justin.
Yeah, thanks, Justin.